I saw this tweet recently, and the person who wrote the tweet, and I can't remember who it is, I've tried to go find the author, so if you know who this is, please put it in the comments below. But they wrote that transition is about when your private parts become your public parts. And there's a lot of truth to that. And so in today's video, and it's a video I've given a lot of thought to over a lot of months, is what are the key differences that I've learned over the last couple of years as I've transitioned from being assigned male at birth to living my full, authentic life as a female. If you're just starting your transition, or if you've ever wondered about what sex is like for a trans person after transition, this video might be for you. So stick around, and let's get at it. Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Kate Madden, and I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm a trans woman who's passionate about community, creativity, and collaboration. And really, what I try to do with this channel is create a resource that I feel I didn't have when I began my transition about 3 years ago. My videos are primarily aimed at those in their 30s, 40s, and 50s who might be looking for a little bit of insight into what life is like as they transition, or specific questions they might have about transition. If you find any of this helpful or valuable, please like, subscribe, and share. I don't speak for all trans people, and really, my experiences are that of someone who presented as a cisgender male for the bulk of their life, and eventually was able to discover themselves as a queer female. I don't claim to be an expert on sexuality or gender identity, but I am someone who's had a chance to date men, to date women, and to date other trans people. Transition provides an opportunity for us to step into authenticity in all aspects of our life, including sex and sexuality. And here are 5 things that I've learned over the last couple of years that I hope you find value in. So the first thing that I learned, and I think a lot of trans girls learn once they go public with their profiles online, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, is the near instant attention from men. Specifically, chasers. What is a chaser? There are people who say they're trans attracted, and this isn't so much about someone who is trans attracted or someone who is even willing to date a trans person. Rather, this is someone who specifically seeks out a trans body, or more precisely, what's between that trans body's legs. What a chaser does is it reduces us to something that they can use, something that gives them pleasure, and ultimately is usually driven from a place of tremendous shame. So how do you recognize a chaser? Well, pretty quickly, I promise. If you're new to this, you're going to catch on very quickly. I put up a thread on Twitter as I prepared to make this video, and some of the pickup lines as people chasers slide into your DMs, they're pretty blatant. And I just asked, what was the cringiest pickup line you've ever heard? And so, for me, for example, I will often get questions very quickly about surgeries. And one dude asked, are you an innie or are you an outie? Emily was asked, if the dude would gag on it. There are other guys out there who will offer to be your sugar daddy. They'll offer to send you $200 a week, $2,000 a week, whatever. But ultimately, it all comes back to them and is never about you. So I mentioned trans attracted people, and they are out there, and there is some interesting discourse out there, some interesting essays. Every now and again, someone on Twitter will start a discussion about it, or Reddit. When I consider a trans attracted person someone who's specifically attracted to trans people, personally, my sense is that I feel like I'm settling. And I think there's a difference in that when I look at the last couple of guys I've gone out with, for example, they were open to dating trans girls, and in fact, they had in the past, but they weren't specifically trans attracted. And I think one of the things that I've really tried to do is not sell myself short. And so if someone is specifically seeking me out for whatever reason, chances are it's something to feed them and their shame. And they might label it as kink, or they might label it as their sexuality. But in the end, it's about using me and my body and keeping me in that body in a way that pleasures them. So there's no real partnership, and I just never want to settle for anyone, any partner. As you move along from understanding who is attracted to you, you can start understanding who you're attracted to. And I think one of the important things that as you begin to detach from that cisgender heteronormative world to understand is that we do live in a world of compulsory heterosexuality. And what I mean by that is that heterosexuality is the default. Transition really allows us the opportunity to detach from the default. I know I'm not the only one who has spent a lifetime disassociating from their sexual feelings and sexual experiences, and what transition can do is it can allow us to rebuild as we begin to develop a new relationship with ourselves and our sexuality. For those of us who are older, and the majority of people watching this are over age 35, a lot of us are married or were married. And what's great is some of us get to stay partnered, and we discover ourselves as lesbians. And those relationships are really beautiful to watch online. I know a couple of folks in real life as well, and it is wonderful and beautiful to see. Others discover an attraction to men and, are totally heterosexual girls. I do like straight boys. It's something I've learned about myself. But when I look at all the trans girls I know between here and Toronto, I only know 3 other trans girls who were married and really discovered that in the end they were mostly heterosexual. And so yeah, some of us stay partnered. For me, my marriage ended. And transition allowed me to look at that relationship sexually, emotionally, through a new lens. And really that new lens provided a key learning, and specifically that gender and sexuality are different things. Who we go to bed with is different than who we go to bed as. Transition allows you to be who you are and to want who you want, and it's never too late to take steps towards that. So the first couple of things are who's attracted to you, who you're attracted to, and then as you move through that, what you desire or who desires you. And I had dinner with a friend the other night, and they're kind of a little bit behind me in terms of the transition class, the grad class that they belong to, so to speak. But they were beginning their exploration of sexuality and messaging with dudes and setting up dates with guys and that sort of thing. And while they hadn't yet met with anyone, they talked about how it felt to read these messages about, how sexy they were, or how beautiful they were, or what have you, and how nice it made them feel. And so my response over the sushi was, imagine how nice it'll be to hear those words as he is taking your dress off. Because wow, it feels good. It's intoxicating to be desired, to be wanted. And, you know, this isn't about orientation, because I've had this experience with men and I've had this experience with women where they say the most incredible things about you, about your body, about your sexuality, because ultimately they want you for who you are. And it's such a powerful thing. You get to respond in the same manner. Being desiring, is not at all about orientation, but rather attraction and wanting to experience that again. So I think one of the things that should be acknowledged, and really one of the things I've learned, is that as you begin to explore your sexuality, as your body changes in a new way, as you go through the second puberty, is that there are limitations that being on HRT, hormone replacement therapy, will place on you. And I see people go online frequently and they say, okay, I want to start transitioning, I want to start estrogen, but I want to be able to maintain my functionality to please my partner. And there's no playing around with estrogen. It's going to have an impact. And so, like, you can either have a little bit of an impact, or you can have the real impact, the full impact that it was meant to have. And so for me, I've been in female range for about 2 years now. And what that means is that there's been significant shrinkage. Erections are very painful for me now. I don't know if, like, there's shrinkage of the skin and the erectile tissue within it stays the same size. I'd be curious about that, and I'm going to actually ask my surgeon when I get the chance to ask about that. One of the things I noticed early on, about 6 to 8 months in, is that my stamina was different. It took a lot harder. While I was still able to maintain erection at that point, it took a lot harder. It was, no pun intended, it was a lot harder to get off. It took a lot harder it took a lot more time, a lot more energy, a lot more effort. About 4 or 5 months in, though, one of the things I noticed is that the orgasm changed. It wasn't necessarily part of the penis, but it was more kind of in the belly, and it was more better. And the other cool thing is you're able to go and do orgasms, multiple orgasms in a row, which is a really incredible, fun thing. It does take longer to get off. Like, as you begin to lose functionality and as you begin to shrink, it does take longer. But ultimately, I think when I put some thought into this, it's really your body is changing, and you're just getting used to new ways to pleasure yourself, or where you find enjoyment. I don't know when I stopped ejaculating, but at a certain point, it just ended. You know, like, it used to be a lot, and it slowly dribbled, and then at one point I noticed it was just gone. Like, there was nothing. So no ejaculate whatsoever. I had this chaser. I mentioned this in a video about a year ago. And I actually had this chaser try to explain to me pre-cum and the trans girl experience. And I was just like, fuck off, dude. Like, seriously. Anyways, ejaculate just disappears. And ultimately, there is no functionality. So for myself, I'm on 8 milligrams of estrogen a day. I was taking progesterone for almost 2 years. I'm off it now. There was no effect for me. And then I'm also on ciproterin, 50 milligrams a day. And I've been on that for about 2 years. My testosterone is less than 0.05, so like almost zero. And then, like I said earlier, I've been within female range on the estrogen side for almost 2 years. And so what that means is I've had no functionality, and occasionally I will have an erection, but it's very infrequent and not something I can plan on. So yeah, this is puberty 2.0, second puberty, and your body is going through some changes. So while you go through those changes, and they might take a different length of time for different people, learn to enjoy it. Sit down with yourself and just enjoy it. Because ultimately, you need to find your own pleasure. Hiding for years is debilitating, and really this is the fifth and final thing that I've learned, is that you get to be seen. Being in the closet, you learn to adjust yourself for other people. You learn to manage your reaction, manage your interests, so as not to make other people not so much uncomfortable or comfortable, but rather not to make them think that there might be something different about you. What if someone finds out? What if I like that thing and they figure out that maybe I'm trans? And like, these are real thoughts that I had as a teenager, and I'm sure countless other trans girls had. Like, I'm Scottish, and I was terrified to wear a kilt. I was so jealous of my cousins and everyone else who got to wear a kilt. And I never wanted to wear a kilt. I mean, I did want to wear a kilt, but I didn't want to be in a kilt and enjoy it. But also, I didn't want other people to think that I enjoyed it for any reasons other than the cultural background of my people. And so it takes a lot of energy to maintain this front and this facade, and it's exhausting. Through my late teens, early 20s, I also would come out to partners, I would come out to close friends, and then I would go back in the closet. And so I did that from the time I was 19 till I was 39. Our language as a community has changed, but I would tell early partners that I was a cross-dresser, or that it's just cross-dressing, and that's all it is. Don't worry. There's nothing more than that. I just like how it feels. And I would use clothing in the bedroom, for example. But sex would always be about disassociation. Like, I wouldn't really be present because I wasn't really seen. I would go to the bedroom with someone and I couldn't wait to get dressed up. Usually in their clothes, because I dated girls who were typically the same size as me. But yeah, I couldn't wait to get dressed up. And now, the thing I've learned, because I get to be me and I get to be seen, is I can't wait to get naked. Because ultimately, I am enough. And that has been the best thing to learn through transition. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has helped. If it has, please like, subscribe, share. And as always, here's to life.